Hello everyone, AlphaSoul here, and welcome to another video. Now today actually going to go through and let you guys know what my testing experience was like as a Phoenix Initiative test member in Ashes of Creation. So we got a chance to play the game, we got a chance to go through and test, and we were just recently released from the NDA and we're allowed to talk about it. Now we can't share any screenshots, so in the background I'm going to have stock footage of most recent tests and stuff like that, but nothing of what from we played. So fortunately, I can't share that, but I can talk about the experience, and that's what I'm going to do. Now, before I get started, there is going to be a live stream today, this Saturday at 1 p.m. Pacific Standard Time with development, and they're going through and they will be doing a live stream on the pre-alpha world, if you will. And in that live stream, the Phoenix Initiative members, myself included, will actually be playing in that time. So you might see my character running around at some point. I'll probably be named Alpha Soul within it, but yeah, that's probably gonna be the case. So I'll be there. We're getting let in at 11, I think, or so. And yeah, that's about it. So see you guys there, and hope to see you there. Now, on to the actual experience of playing the pre-alpha. So yeah, so I started off, and there were three main goals of the testing. The testing wasn't to really, I guess you could say, test the other systems or play the game. The testing was really focused around installation and patching, the client stability, and the server stability. So those were the three things that we were really looking out for. But we did end up recording other bugs and problems and issues that came through. And so, installing the process, I came across a couple bugs, that actually wouldn't let me in the game, but it turns out that problem was due to, like, originally within the PI process, they had planned on splitting us into two separate groups that would come in, but eventually just said, heck with it, go through and you all come in at the same time. But they never actually removed some of the permissions. So some of us ran into a wall because we happened to be of a later testing date or time for that. So once they removed that and got that, logging in and going through was perfectly fine and no problems at all. So I ended up creating a Veyloon cleric and logged into the game. Toast and Margaret were there as dwarves waiting for us and waving us into the world. And obviously, the first thing that I was struck by was how good it looked. I was looking around, I was like, man, this is beautiful. World feels beautiful, plays smoothly. A little bit of wonkiness and clunkiness with the directions and moving and turning. You are able to toggle between free action and the tab target mode. I ended up staying with tab target just because free action just didn't feel right for the world at that time. Um, yeah, so we went down. I went down, accepted some quests. The quest, there is no quest system that has like a exclamation mark or anything like that. There are just certain NPCs that are a certain color that have interaction with them, and some of them will have quests. And when you take up the quest, you actually have to read what it is to figure out where you need to go and do all that stuff. So went, accepted my first quest, ended up going out, and it was a standard quest, killing a couple monsters, or I think it was like 10 or something like that. And I went, killed them, got into combat for the first time. There is no auto attack, so you actually have to hit your button and attack repeatedly, basically, with it. Um, Went through and did that, killed a couple monsters. It was relatively easy just because, on top of being a cleric, it's just level one. So I completed the quest, got a chance to go back, accept, and um, get the experience for that. And while I was basically in town, that's when more people were getting in. Everyone started, getting a feel for things. People attempted to kill Margaret and Toast. I'm not sure if they were successful or not in the very beginning. Um, and then I was in town. Somebody tried to PK me, and then at the same time, some of the envious guys were around and ended up killing the person who killed or attempted to kill me, and that went through. But at the same time, I think unknown, I think it was, found a named mob and was asking if anyone wanted to jump in. So I was like, yeah, sure, why not? So I went with him, and then we went back to the spawn spot, and we didn't see any mob. And it turns out they despawn after a while, and then there was some, confusion as to how those work. But it looks like the mob wasn't around. So we left, and I decided to join up with the envious guys and go basically level a node. One of the quests that we got was something around the lines of, find node spaces to settle, and there were three different nodes in the Alpha One world. Oh, by the way, that's another significant portion. The Alpha One world is actually pretty big. I know they said that, and then with the description was that it was small, but when you actually get in there, it it's exactly what I suspected. Because of the move speed is drastically slower than everywhere else, the world is just a lot bigger. And the Alpha One world, I think, who was it? I forgot who it was. Another alpha tester basically said that he ran around in the world, and it basically took him about an hour to go. I forgot what he classified. I'm not sure if it was end to end, but it's a very large world, despite the fact that it is that small smidge. So I'm actually not very worried about the world size anymore, because if that was a tiny smidge of what the overall world is going to be, it is going to be a massive world. So that was the other thing that really impressed me. Yeah, so we all got together. There were about eight, I think, or 10 of us, mostly the envious guys. There were some other guild people sprinkled in, and then we went, headed towards the node. And because the world is actually the same of what you saw in the preview, we were able to figure out, okay, the first place where they went to the node was this location, so let's follow that same route and go there, and that's what we did. But on the way, we saw a dungeon, so we went in the dungeon. We attempted to tackle it. I think we killed like one monster, and then we got overwhelmed, and we had to go back out. And then some other guys logged in, so we had to wait for them to come. We regrouped, headed to the node, and we just started killing stuff around there. Unfortunately, most of the stuff there happened to be like level 10 elite monsters, and we were level 2 at the time. And yeah, so we kind of we're at a standstill. But at the same time that we saw this, we basically was like, okay, we're seeing this there, and I think somebody got into their head that hey, the Ember Dragon is somewhere around here. And we remember when Steven and the crew went and did it, so we're like, you know what? Let's go try and tackle the Ember Dragon. So I think we grouped up with the NX guys, and we all headed to the dungeon. We all, ran over, and we just made a mad dash and sprint down the dungeon. There are a lot of mobs in there, and some of us died on the way, but we were able to keep going. And eventually, we got to the room with about 20 of us. We decided, okay, let's go for it. Let's try and kill this mob. So we start fighting it, and we're dying at a pretty decent clip. But the respawn is actually not far away from where the dragon is. It's still in the dungeon. So we respawn and we immediately head back, and it takes about, let's say, 20 to 30 seconds to get back. So we were just on a constant rotation of guys, and the dragon ended up resetting a couple times because we figured you can't drag it outside the room and it'll then reset. You can't drag it up to the stairs; it'll reset. It's like a big room. You come in, there's a platform, and then down there's lava and everything like that. It's exactly what you saw in the preview. And so we looked at that, and we kept attempting. I think we got it down 10% one time, got a little better then, and then we figured out that there was a bug that you could actually hit and then get like this infinite sprint roll speed, so you could move pretty quickly. And so we were having tanks do that and then circle the entire room while everyone took pot shots at it. And we eventually did that. And I think at that point, Stephen was like, okay, you know, oops, sorry for that little interruption. Daughter came bashing in. But anyways, continuing on. So at that point, Stephen is kind of yelling at us. He's basically saying he's using the server shout, basically say, "You guys can't do it. Don't even bother." He's kind of taunting us around. And at some point, he teleports in, and he's on his flying mount, just watching us from above and taking this in. And I think Toast and everyone come in, and then he was like, "You know what? Let's teleport the whole server in." So he teleports everyone into the room, and which actually served as a pretty good test because the room still held up really well. Like there were no crashes because X amount of people were in the area. There is one note though: the room itself was very laggy, or not necessarily laggy, but the frame rate definitely went down in that room for everything that was going on. So that was the only major time that I saw the frame rate go down. But there really was the server kind of held up for the most time. There were times where the dragon appeared to like disappear and go around, but it is what it is. So we yeah, so we do that, and I think we get it down to at the whole server and everyone kind of training it around, and then taking their pot shots. We get it down to half, and we're feeling pretty good about ourselves. We're like, yeah, we can take this thing down at level 2. And then when it hit the 50% mark, it kind of flew up into the center, and then like I want to say like maybe 50 level 10 plus raptors spawned and just started massacring everyone. And that was all she wrote. We couldn't get it past there. We saw the dragon. That seemed to be phase 2 of the dragon. Um, there were a bunch, and so we figured, okay, we actually can't do this at this point. This is definitely not doable. So we called it quits. We went and went back to the node and continued to level the node, and we ended up, I think, we ended up getting it to the second or the first phase, the settlement phase, and it got there. And originally, nothing spawned; it just cleared the area, and then it popped like I want to say 5 minutes later. It popped up, and so settlement was there, all was good. And then I think for the purposes of testing, Steven sped it along to level 3, and he sped all the nodes along to level 3 so we could purchase, new items or new weapons and stuff like that, and see what it was like elect a mayor and kind of go through, and then create a guild as well too, and create our guilds and do stuff like that. So that worked out pretty well, and it went through pretty well. One nasty surprise that we saw that came about it was we died, or at least I died, a ton of times within that dragon room, right? The dragon can kill you with a front breath, it can kill you with the tail, and just hit you basically. But I didn't realize that we were accruing experience debt. So we actually thought it was a bug that none of us were gaining experience anymore. Until I think they went to a QA guy or programmer and asked what was going on. And we're like, oh no, it's experience debt. It's just not showing up on the bar or anything like that. And so I actually had to spend a good hour and a half or maybe 2 hours grinding off all of that accrued experience. Um, and yeah, it took a while because obviously the numbers are kind of wonky right now, but it actually turns out that it's much quicker for you to solo as opposed to solo a mob as opposed to grouping for it. Even though we attempted to group with like 8 players, but it splits the XP among them, and so it wasn't actually worth it to kind of go through from there. Um, yeah, so we went down and did more testing. I was able to purchase some mounts. Oh, speaking of purchase, there was actually a bug. Um, 1 second. Whoops, sorry. Kid attack number 2. Kid attack number 2. So yes, so there was actually a bug that somebody figured out really quickly that some of the weapons that you bought you can sell for a considerable amount more. So, for example, like when we started, we figured out that you could buy what the heck was it? A cloth robe. Actually, I think it might have been Zara who figured this one out. You could buy a cloth robe for 50 and sell it for 100. So for the longest time, well, everyone was just sitting there buying cloth robes and selling them all back to the vendor and accruing wealth. And then somebody else figured out that, hey, there's actually even better items. You buy a long sword for 150, you can sell it back for 10,000 a piece. And then people just, started getting money. Couldn't really do anything with it, but it was the first real money bug that we found. And so within that, but the good thing with that is we were able to then go through and try out many of the different weapons because you can use any armor combination, any weapon combination with any class. And so I actually chose as a cleric, put on plate and then use I think I settled on the spear. I was using the axe at first, but I settled on the spear and then went through and was leveling with that because they give you a mace, but the mace was just like, meh. Um, yeah, so that was pretty fun. We then I went through and purchased some mounts. We were able to go with flying, and mount speed didn't matter. It was a lot quicker to get around the world with the mount than as opposed to without it. Um, yeah, it was overall a very good test. We got to spend a good 7 hours testing it. So yeah, so I'm going to give you guys more kind of feedback and more, I guess you could say, succinct on specific points later. But I just wanted to talk about my experience overall. And yeah, so I'll see you today. We'll see kind of what happens from there, and then yeah, one last point. Feel free to ask me anything about the test specifically, and if I can answer it, I will, and I'll put it down there. All right. Thank you guys. Take care of yourselves, and I hope to see you guys this afternoon when the live stream is on. Take care.